Hey guys, and welcome back to the Blaze TV podcast. It's Ed Kimberley, Stu Coles, and our guest is, well, it's man of the hour in many ways with his testimonial just around the corner, Blaze head coach Danny Stewart. Stewie, I mean, I know like you're not one of the guys that'll talk about himself too much. You always put the team first, but I don't think you're getting out of talking about yourself a little bit here, bud. You must be super pumped to have the testimonial just a few days away.
Yeah, I am, and you know what? I'm not gonna lie, I hate the limelight, but I am really excited. I'm really excited to bring back some of the guys that from the past, and we're seeing a lot more guys come back from my playing days, and that wasn't truly intentional or anything like that. I just felt like those guys were maybe more settled in their careers, and it's a lot to ask a guy that's been retired a year or two or still playing to fork over the money to come over and enjoy the night. But no, I'm really excited. I think it'll be a good event. I'm obviously honored to be awarded that by the club, but at the same time, I think it'll just be a really fun and great event to kind of bring back some memories of old and see some old faces as well.
And you've timed it quite nicely, haven't you, if you think about it, because we don't get to watch a lot of hockey in the middle of the summer.
Yeah, I won't take credit because he'll never let me hear the end of it, but I got to give PZ the credit. It was his idea to have it around this time, and you're not battling Blaze stuff, and be able to focus on it. I didn't want any distractions during the year as well. So yeah, it's come out nice. It was a little bit more difficult to put two teams together, but unfortunately some guys couldn't make it. There was a few guys that initially committed that things happened and they couldn't make it, but all in all, I'm excited for the group we have coming back.
Yeah, I mean, you first stepped foot in Coventry in the 06-07 season. 17 years later, did you ever think you'd actually still be here? And has that time flown by? Because I mean, I know it has for me.
Not a chance. I thought I used to bug Luke Chabot all the time and say, how do you coming from Canada, how do you stay here for fast forward 17 years later. But look, I wouldn't take away any of it. I don't regret anything. I've got a lot through the Blaze, the Elite League, and met my wife, had my children here, and had a lot of ups and downs and a lot of good memories, and it's been fantastic. But yeah, no, certainly I never thought that I would be here this long.
11 years at the club. 4 as a player, 7 as a coach. This is going to be year 8. I mean, it's richly deserved. I mean, I think you speak to anybody and they say, yeah, it's richly deserved. What is it like to have that conversation with the with the owners, with the management there to say, Danny, we want to give you a testimonial for what you've done here at the Blaze? I mean, that must be a really wonderful feeling.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. Sometimes and everyone that's part of the organization, I believe is selfless in their own way. And you do all the work that you do, and especially as a coach, and as a player, you're more in the limelight, you're more interacting with the fans, you're out on show, you're in the spotlight like during games and stuff. And whereas coaching, you're more behind the scenes, working in the dark, and things go well, it's great for the players. Things go bad, it's bad for you, right? And that's it. It's selfless job. So it's good to be recognized throughout the people that you work with day in, day out, and and have the respect of the guys to come back as well. That's a big commitment. Guys like Dan Carlson, Martin, these guys that are flying back over, bringing their families over, it's not cheap, and it's not easy either. Have them on a 7-8 hour flight, and you adjust to the time zone, stay a little bit, and then you head back. So it's a big commitment for them. So I'm truly honored. I think I'm probably more honored for the guys that are coming back to enjoy it with me than actually being awarded it, if I'm being honest.
Fair enough. That's a proper hockey player answer, I think, Coach, if you don't mind me saying. The other thing as well, and you mentioned obviously the wife and the kids that are a big part of your support network, and integrated into Coventry, of course. But it's a bit of a family affair in other ways as well, because Jay's going to come over, he's going to play. Maybe some of the fans don't know. I don't think Bobby's coming over, your other brother, but You played with him growing up as well. And, thinking about it and putting two and two together here is you're a very competitive guy. Is growing up with those two also playing the game sort of where your competitive side started to kind of develop?
Oh yeah. Yeah. They, my two brothers, I'd say Bobby is probably even worse than me in terms of being competitive. Jay is competitive, but Jay's a little bit more laid back than Bobby and I. So he, I wouldn't say he was as bothered about things, but no, it's a shame. Bobby had planned to come, but my brother just recently moved down to the United States, and he's got some visa issue, not issues. I shouldn't say issues, but he's got some things he's got to abide by in trying to get his visa sorted. So he wasn't able to leave the country at that time. So if not, he would have been here. My parents were gonna come as well, but it was actually me that said, look, like it's gonna be, my parents are a bit older now, they're in their 80s, and it's just jump on a plane and come over. It's a big commitment, and I don't even think I'd see them in the time that they were here with everyone else that's coming back, and how busy we'll be. So fortunately they'll have other ways to enjoy it, but it is special. The family, Harriet's side of the family will all be there as well. They've all been big support cast for me as well while I've been here, and then obviously Harriet and the kids have just been phenomenal. I think not just in supporting, but in making me better as a person, but also that translates into a better coach. Having two young daughters sure changes the way you are and matures you a lot quicker, I felt. And I think some of it's translated into me being a better coach as well. The empathy side of things with guys and stuff like that. It's been very, very good for my life and my career, having those two little rats.
That's actually really sweet. And I think that's a really astute observation, and I appreciate you sharing that, because that was quite personal. Just quickly before I hand over to Stu here, you played with both Jay and Bobby as well at various points. I think you played junior with Jay in Oakville, Bobby in the U-Haul in Fort Wayne. Playing with your brothers, in a more competitive setting must have been pretty awesome as well.
Yeah, really good. Because Jay was 2 years older than me and Bobby's 5. So I actually never ever played like junior, academy hockey or junior hockey, anything like that. Never played on the same team all the way growing up. And then I had finished at Notre Dame, and Jay had been playing for the Coventry Blaze. We had an uncle, Brian Hodge, that was part owner of the club, and he had convinced Jay to go out there and play for them. And Jay had a couple really good seasons there. And then after 4 years in Wilcox, Saskatchewan, I was kind of looking for something. And I either had the option to play in my hometown in Fort McMurray. I had a couple options in BC, but just the idea of playing with Jay and being outside the Toronto area was really appealing. So I did that and had a great year with my brother. We definitely ran some havoc in that league. We had a very good team that year. We just unfortunately ran into a very tough Milton team who I think they'd only lost 2 games that year. Jeff Hutchins on that team. Back in the Darren Hadar, he had an unbelievable career in the American League and a little bit in the NHL. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else there, but yeah, it was a fun year. We scored our goals. I think Jay might have led the team in goals. I think I led the team in points. We both were over 100 PIMs and had our few tussles each, and it was a really fun year. And then obviously got to pro, and my rookie year, going to Fort Wayne, and they had just won the championship the year before, and they had a bunch of guys back. And my brother knew I was a little bit of a live wire, kind of on and off the ice, and he prepped me a little bit. And I think he was trying to light a fire under me and said, look, we got 9 guys coming back from a championship team up front, gone through two 10th forwards already. So you're going to have to do something. And I remember the first game, I just tapped the guy on the shin pads. We were in Kalamazoo, and I tapped the guy on the shin pads, and I think he was about 6'2", but at the time he felt about 6'5". And I asked him to go, and I'll never forget it. I remember during the fight, actually, no defense, just going toe to toe. And I remember I just had a clear view of the bench, and my brother was just on the bench, almost like and it was hilarious. And but we going back to the competitive side, and I don't know if I've told this story, but me and my brother Bobby's first pro practice together, we actually got in a fight.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he was we were playing a small area game, and I think he was always looking out for my best, and he could tell. I went in the cup. Maybe it wasn't our first practice, it was the first week, but I went in the first couple of days. I was a little bit tentative. I was quiet and in the room, and and he was just trying to get me going, and he was kind of in a small area game. He was kind of cross-checked me a little bit, but he came up, and at the time I turned and he caught me under the chin.
Oh.
Really good, and I just gloves off. We started going. Heard the coach, no, break. he had I think 50 goals, close to 50 goals the year before, so they didn't want this rookie coming along and pounding him out, I don't think.
Fair enough. That's a good story.
Yeah.
That's a good story. Stu, go on. I'll let you take the reins.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, you were you weren't afraid of getting involved in a scrap or two over the years, and you kind of said it to a certain extent there that a lot of the people that you would be fighting against were a bit bigger than you. Was there anywhere you sort of thought, maybe sat in the penalty box or after the game, that was a bit of a mistake, probably shouldn't have done that?
Yeah. I hit a point in my career, probably towards the end of my Blaze playing days. I had the one stretch. It was a stretch of about a year and a half where I had 5 concussions.
Oh.
And that really changed me. It really changed the way I played. I mean, there was guys tapping me on the shin pads that thought I was a for sure fight, and I was like, no. And then you had to go through that transition of guys saying, oh, you've changed, you're this, I won't say it, but swearing at you, calling you this, calling you that. And but it was a really tough transition because, like you said, I wasn't afraid. I think in my first 3 years in pro in the States, I had, I think, just under 40 fights, and then came over here for a couple of years, and you fight Derek Campbell a couple times, and a couple of times Brad Voth. I mean, these were tough boys, and there was certainly a few in my career where I fought a guy and I was like, yeah, that was a really bad idea. Like I remember named Greg Keeler in Elmira. He was a scorer, but he was like 6'4", but I didn't find out how tough he was until after. And I mean, I had goose eggs on the back of my head. You wouldn't believe. And, so there's situations like that. I got one other one where the fight actually didn't happen. And I thank God it didn't, because I don't know if I'd be here, but it was my second year in Fort Wayne. We were playing Rockford Ice Hogs, and Reed was playing for them in the playoffs that year. And I remember I started the playoff that it was game 1, and I lined up against Maffei, and I chopped them on the skate lace, and I said, it's going to be a long series for you. And he looked at me like, are you effing kidding me? You're like 5'8". I would like Reed Simpson used to fight Bob Probert. He was an NHL heavy. And I was just a rat to him the first 2 games. And I remember there was a scrum in front of our net, and I came in and I gave him a little uppercut, like a little cheap shot. And it just seemed as I did it, the waters just cleared, like everyone cleared, and you're dead. And he came at me, dropped his gloves. And this is the way I remember it. I don't know. I was so scared at the time. Like, I don't know if that's the true story, but I remember dropping my gloves. But the linesman working the game that night was a local guy. And I think he recognized the situation, and he just grabbed Simpson. And I remember grabbing him after and saying, thank you so much. Long story short, the next game, I took a run at Reed Simpson, and he saw me coming, and last minute he just kind of went like this, and I ran like those just went boosh like that. So he kind of got the last laugh with that. But I'm very happy that didn't ever happen, because he would have just killed me.
Yeah, there's been a lot of tough guys over the years. Maybe not so many now as as the game's evolved and changed over the years. But if you go back thinking about the team that you joined in Coventry, the sort of 06, 07, there was a lot of tough guys on that team, but there was a lot of skill guys as well on that team. It was a real good mix. And that team that you joined, two league titles in the first 2 years that you were here. I mean, that must have been you thanking your lucky stars that you've dropped into almost such a good situation.
Yeah, no, for sure. We had a really good team. I'd say it was more about skill and grit that year. Like the only real guys that were fighting that year we had Rumen, obviously. Myself would fight, and then like Task joined us later, and he'd get in the odd one. And but other than that, we didn't really have fighters per se. It was more like team toughness and skill. And same thing as the next year. I think Brooms eventually moved on that neck, or he was hurt. He had that neck injury the whole year, and so yeah, we didn't have a lot of it, but the league certainly did. I remember our first exhibition game when I first got here was against Newcastle, and they had Payette, Barone, Cornish, Jason Robinson was there. I think Brant Myers was playing for that team. I was just like, boy, but yeah, a lot of tough boys back in those days.
With a lot of the skill guys there, some of them are the players that you are coming back. Sort of Dan Carlson, Neil Martin. Having those sorts of players around you must have been able to make you feel at ease and confident going forward, like the offensive abilities of everyone on the team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think when I first got here, Tomo actually had me on a line with Calds and Carlson, and I remember dumping a puck in Calds' corner one time, and he looked at me like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, don't." Like, that's the look he gave me. Like, I'm not going to get that. You're gonna dump it, you go get it. But yeah, I mean, just to see how good those guys were together, and guys like Morsey too. The experience brought. Marty was like another level. Marty was just 200-foot guy. Like, defensively, he would have been a nightmare to play against. Just always like in your face. I mean, just closing guy. We had such a good team. Cloutier, the experience that he had. Koenig, phenomenal goalie. And I could just going on and on. Reed Simonton, Nadur, Nazardine at the back. I mean, we just, our Brits were solid. Peasy did his job. Tommy did his job. We're just so solid. We had Tate that year as well. And yeah, such a good team.
Such a good team. And it's the first year that was the double as well, Challenge Cup win up in Sheffield. And getting a win, a big win as well in that final must have been a great feeling to get a trophy on the road like that. Yeah,
no, that was one of my best memories, I think, as a player and coach. It was because it was a tough building to go into and win, especially in a final. And we just played the perfect game that night, and it was a very fun night afterwards. I think were just as memorable as the game itself. But yeah, it was a great time.
I'd have to agree. Of all of the Blaze games that I've watched over the years, and there's been a fair few now, that performance in Sheffield on that Challenge Cup, I think, is the best I've ever seen a Blaze side play. Just an actual complete 60 minutes. I know you talk about a lot of getting close to it, whereas that one, it was a genuine one. It's a real strong memory for mine. So you were in that team. Your coach was Tomo, and everybody has a good Paul Thompson memory. What's your best one that you're able to share on a video that's being recorded for people to listen to?
I'm able to share. Oh, so I think I remember the first time I thought I was gonna get in. He was gonna get mad at me. Because we were rolling that year. We were on cloud 9, and I think we had a really big one weekend, and the guys all went out on Monday night, and I think we carried it through to the Monday night, even possibly. I remember I kind of strolled. I shouldn't be saying this, but I kind of strolled in Tuesday morning, and I thought I was early and gonna beat everyone there. And I hope you guys know that the coach is where the entrance is. And I opened that door and I was still in my dress clothes. And I remember he took one look at me and he said, "Are you just getting in now?" And I said, "Yeah." And he kind of just, he didn't give me crap or anything like that. He just kind of looked at me like almost as if to say like, "Well, you better have a good practice then." You know what I mean? So I remember getting into the room and I was like, "Oh boy, I went on the bike and did a proper warm up, and I might have had the best practice of my life, I think." But so that's what made Tomo such a good coach, right? It wasn't about his ego. It wasn't about that. You know, he's understanding that, you know, when you're enjoying your hockey and you're winning and stuff like that, guys are going to enjoy themselves away from the rink every once in a while. And he didn't punish me for it, because I think by that point he had known that, you know, I was for the most part a good professional and I was going to come to work that day. And I think that's what cleared it up. But yeah, I'll never forget the look on his face. And I think probably my other memory of him would be in my last season as a player. And it was the first time I'd ever been healthy scratched as a pro player. And I remember we were battling Belfast for the championship that year. And we'd hit a couple game rut there where maybe we'd struggle to score goals. And Tom pulled me in and he made the tough decision. Like, I'd been with him for 4 years and we'd won champion. I know I was a guy he heavily relied on, but he made a call to sit me that night and put other guys in. And I think it wasn't just about me. It was about rocking the boat a little bit as well and kind of giving guys a wake up call. And I remember we went on to win that game 6-4, and I was the happiest guy up in the lounge. And, but I did, when he told me, I did leave that office immediately. I had enough respect for him to leave it immediately, but you know, and then he put me right back in. I never missed a game the rest of the year. We went on to win the championship, but, it was just a masterstroke by him. It just shows, you know, he was, and that I always think Tomo and Tom was good in all areas as coach, systematically. He's good everywhere. But I think, you know, in managing people, managing situations too, mainly that was his strength for sure.
And you've got another guy who you've played with who's well known to Blaze fans, who's another sort of interesting character, Michael Tasker, who's coming back. And then the wry smile there straight away, so it kind of says it all. You know, both him and Sean Johnson almost come as a pair sometimes. Though I don't think you ever played with Sean at the Blaze, but you must have a good Michael Tasker memory as well.
Well, unfortunately, I think probably all the Michael Tasker stories probably wouldn't be good to tell on here, but. Listen, Tasker, he wears his heart on it. I mean, if there's ever a guy that wears his heart on his sleeve, it's that guy. You know, you hear that a lot with hockey players, but he is like the extreme. And yeah, you know what? He was a bit of a wildfire back in the day, but man, he was one of the more loyal, you know, caring guys. Like you could tell he truly cared about his teammates. When you did well, it was never about him. And awesome guy. He was. Probably the one little PG story I can tell maybe is that I remember when we went to Aalborg for the Continental Cup, and we had who did we have? We had Aalborg, Salzburg, and there was the Slovenian team, I think. And we traveled there and we played Aalborg in the first game and we lost 3-1. They were stacked that year. I think they ended up going to the final that year, and really good team. They beat us 3-1, and then we had to turn around the next night and play Salzburg. And I mean, they had Richard Jackman had just won the Stanley Cup the year before, and they were stacked. Josh Green was there, and it was about 15-20 minutes before warm up, and Tasker comes running to him. He's like, "Guys, I'm not even going to try to do a northern accent, but like, guys, you won't believe what they're all doing out there." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "They're all in matching tracksuits. They're all warming up together. They're doing like the exact same thing. It's like they're like in the military." And I was like, every guy was laughing. And they were like, "Task, what were you doing out there?" And he's like, "Having a cigarette." 15 minutes before warm up. And we go on to beat these guys 3-2 in OT, which was one of the most biggest upset, I think, maybe the biggest upset I've ever been a part of, other than maybe a couple Newcastle moments. But wow. But he's an awesome guy. Awesome guy. I'm excited he's coming back down.
It was possibly the easiest interview that I've ever done with any Blaze player ever. We were writing a piece for the magazine, and it was more about sort of interests outside of hockey. And I said to him, so Task, you play cricket then? What about cricket? 15 minutes later, he stopped talking. And I had enough for a good solid article and a half. So yeah, he's a good guy. And you mentioned about sort of earlier about the goalies you played with, you know, TK being one of them. But, you know, other ones you had around you in the Blaze team, Hershey was around as well. And quite often, you know, the Blaze fans will say, you know, who's the best goalie, who's best defenseman. If you think of goalies, they've got to be two of the best that the Blaze have had from your knowledge, not just those you've played with, but coached with, seen as opposition when you've been at Newcastle and Fife.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my personal opinion is they're probably, two of the best for sure. You know, there's been a few since then that, you know, you could probably throw into the mix, and, you know, we've had some good goalies over the years as well. And, but, you know, they were, I mean, Hershey and Koenig were another level. I mean, they just, in different ways too, like completely different styles. And, but yeah, they were both phenomenal goalies and competitors too. Like that, I think that's what maybe made them that next level, is how competitive they were. I mean, TK, like the first 2 years, like he was, you know, he's just so competitive. That's the only way I can put it. I mean, I could probably give you examples, but he just, even in practice, like he took so much pride in not getting scored on, and it made everyone else around him better, because then you bear down trying to score on them, and it was very difficult to do. I can't say I scored a lot on them in practice.
And with all of that in mind, and you know, over the years with the Blaze, what's your kind of standout memory? You mentioned, you know, Salzburg being one of the biggest upsets in the Continental Cup. You know, what is there anything else that kind of sticks in your mind?
The first season, I mean, just that kind of like 1 month period where we won the Challenge Cup, you know, we won the league after the Challenge Cup, did we not? I can't remember what came first. I believe we did. Yeah. And then we won the league not long after. And then I think we had about 5 games left in the season after we had won the championship. And, I think Tomo rested up a couple guys. I know I had to rest a couple games because of my shoulders and stuff like that. And then we got into the playoff series against Newcastle, and went up to Newcastle. And I believe it was a 1-0 game up there. Like, they played phenomenal. And then they came to the Sky Dome and like bang, 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 and went up like 4-0 at one point in the aggregate. And just that comeback that night in leg 2 of the quarterfinal was just unbelievable. And I think from winning the Challenge Cup and then that, we were on such a high. And although we were banged up, I can't even blame it on that why we didn't win. I think TK had to go home for a personal reason there with his, and you know, flew back in for the game, and I think it just kind of threw us off a little bit. Whatever, I don't really have an explanation, but you know, it was certainly a year we just missed out on the Grand Slam. But that's got to be up there. I think winning it in Edinburgh, my last year playing, you know, Coles scoring that winning goal in OT, and because we, you know, Edinburgh had us on the ropes. You know, if Coles, I think he scored 2 in the third and then 1 in overtime. He scored a hat trick to win the game, and they had us on the ropes. And we knew we had to come back the next night to play Belfast for the championship, because Belfast was knocking on our door, so we needed to win. And I think it was just a release when we won that game. So those are big ones for sure. Trying to think if there's anything else. Salzburg, of course, was a big moment. But on that, you know, the Continental Bolzano was a good trip too, man. We played some really good hockey. I think if we had the technology that we had today. I think Jonathan Weaver's goal would have stood there against Bolzano in a different hockey game, and you could have seen us maybe possibly progress there. So, but that was the fun trip as well, and a great experience. So yeah, a lot of good memories, and then endless memories off the ice as well with good guys.
Good guys that are coming back and be part of the testimonial. I'll pass it back to Ed.
Yeah, you mentioned Weaves there, Stewie. I ran the numbers on this earlier, and Stu had to double check them for me because he got in a couple of games last year. But can you believe that he's still playing? Because his first game as a pro in the UK, you were 12.
No, I can't believe he's. I want to say he's done now, but I didn't even think Weaves actually liked ice hockey, if I'm being honest. But yeah, unbelievable player. I mean, for me, top 3 British player of all time. Yep. Without, I think and in my career as a player and my coach, like if you had to say, pick one guy in his prime to quarterback your power play, like I'm taking Jonathan Weaver without a doubt. And he was that skilled and that good. Just his touches, his creativity, and man, he could rip the puck. For a guy that didn't have a muscle on him, he could absolutely rip the puck. And yeah, he's a phenomenal player. And I know he still playing. He must enjoy it somehow. But he's got to be. What is he now? 46, 47?
Yeah, I think he's 46, 47. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe he's played his last game. I don't know.
Maybe. Another guy as well, talking about defense when we mentioned him earlier, but Neil Martin. And I think Stu asked about, who was better, TK or Hershey. Another question that always kind of comes up is, particularly nowadays, it's like, man, Neil Martin, when he played here, how would he stack up against, the modern player? And you think, well, he's still going to be Neil Martin. He's still going to be that guy.
Well, I think Marty's one of those guys that could have played in any era.
Yeah.
His compete levels and his skating ability were so phenomenal, and his hockey IQ. I mean, he would adapt. And I think there's some guys that were maybe effective back in those days that weren't as great skaters, that maybe would struggle a little more in today's era. There's some guys that maybe relied on their toughness only that would struggle in today's game. But Marty could, he was, a different player to Weaver, obviously. And he, like I mentioned earlier, he was just an unbelievable 200-foot player. Like he just, pass up through the neutral zone. He was closing that guy before the guy would even touch the puck. In the D zone, he was closing guys. He was so tough to play against for opposing forwards. He just was all over you. And defensively, he was phenomenal. Penalty killer, phenomenal. Like, in power play, he was so good at, getting entries and creating lanes and stuff. He was just, like I said, I could go on and on. He's just a phenomenal player. And just, again, both guys, phenomenal people too, Marty for the 4 years that he was with this organization, he was the one guy that like everyone knew my first year was like drawn to, like, cause he was just so helpful with everybody. He got you settled in, within a week, you already felt part of the family. And that was something behind the scenes that he was so valuable for. And, just bringing everyone together. He was a big leader for Tomo, for sure.
And he's bringing the kids as well. Are you doing a bit of scouting there, Stewie? Because I think they're both playing junior in various stages.
Yeah. Well, Hudson got drafted the OHL, and I think by the sounds of it, Hayden will be the same possibly next year. But we'll take a look at them, but they're a long way away. I don't is on their mind right now. They might be thinking a little bit higher right now, but it'll be exciting to see. I think it'll be something special for him to play with his kids as well. I think it'll be good.
And I've played golf with you and Keno. You guys get to play against each other a little bit. That'll be fun, and it's great that he's going to be pulling along because I know he loves playing.
Yeah, I know he made it clear he wanted to play, and I said, yeah, why not? Like, absolutely. You know what I mean? I think it'll be fun. And, Keno could play back in the day. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like good mitts on him. He was a feisty little guy. And, he certainly certainly could play. So yeah, I think he's excited too. And, we're excited to have him. Keno's a big part of the organization, and he's been a big part of the team success, and, and a guy that I've worked with alongside for many years now. So, not just Blaze, but also Best of British camps and things like that. So, it's good to have him involved.
Yeah, and no, Stewie, I mean, we're all really looking forward to celebrating the day. And, for everyone watching this, go to the website, the Blaze website, for details. There's plenty of stuff on there, links to merch, etc. I had the hoodie come through the other day. I went to put it on, but I'm sweating in my office here, Stewie, so I hope you don't mind.
I don't blame you.
There's some really great stuff to support Danny. And, I kind of just want to move on a little bit, if you don't mind, and just talk a little bit about the 2023-2024 season, to put your coaching hat back on, because Craig messaged me earlier, there is some more signing news. For context, we've recorded this on the Friday where we've announced Roth and Donhauser, but another name has put pen to paper. And Stewie, do you want to do the honors? You usually let me let the cat out of the bag. How do you want to do it this time round?
Well, who are we talking about? Because I did actually sign one today.
Okay, I will do that then. So returning for the 2023-2024 season, defenseman Alexander Kukali. And Stewie, I mean, I spoke to Xander in the summer, kind of a little bit later on in the summer, and it just struck me straight away what an unbelievable human being he was, what an incredible professional he was going to be. And when you kind of look back on the season he had with us, in context, he didn't play the year before. What he was able to achieve was pretty remarkable. Yeah, no,
Kooks I love Kooks. He's a big presence in the room. He's a really smart hockey guy. And after having a full season off, it was, you're always taking a bit of a gamble when a guy's missed a full season, but everything I'd heard about him, and he'd been on the ice a lot in the off season before the season. And, he was really good for us, kind of quiet, went about his business. And I think one part of his game that's really underestimated is his puck movement. Like, he moves the puck and he sees the ice really well. You saw a glimpse of his shot there, and the one goal he scored there off that face-off. I mean, absolute bomb. And he's a very good hockey player. He's a very, very good person. And we're thrilled to have him back. He was a big part of our D core last year, which I think was arguably one of our best strengths. And he's a big part of that. So it's good to get him back.
Yeah, definitely. And you fully expect him to be a leader again. I messaged Ethan. I don't think he'd spoke to him much either. And I'd said, I'd be massively surprised if he's not wearing a letter. And he was like, oh, okay. And then as soon as he met him, he messaged me and he said, hey, remember what you said about Kooks wearing a letter? I was like, yeah. He goes, I see it 100%.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's certainly a leader for us. And, as far as the other guys too, did we want to talk about those two?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was just about to ask.
I'll start with Roth. Like, I'm really excited. I'm excited for both of them. But Roth, winning national championship freshman and sophomore year at UMD, and his last year there, he was captain. He led the team in scoring, and I think last year he had a good first year. I think he just got a little bit buried in that Florida lineup. They had a lot of guys from a championship the year before, and they went on to win it this year. And sometimes that happens. And, when he became available, we jumped on it. And I think he's a guy that's got a lot of upside in here and could do really well for us. And then Donhauser, a little bit different of a player. He's more, obviously a bit bigger, and, a guy that plays in those hard areas, good puck possession guy, and a good smart player off the puck as well. He'll feature a lot in our PK and shoots the puck really, really well as well. So I think part of our success the last few years has been scoring throughout the lineup, and all three into our fourth line coming from the back end, and we wanted that to continue as well. And I think with, guys like Cookie and Donhauser and, guys like that, you're going to have scoring through the lineup. So, these guys aren't brought in just to say, play on your third line and just chip in and chip out. That's not how we play. That's not how I am. I want everyone, scoring goals. And, I think he'll be a guy that's very good for us as well.
No, we're really looking forward to it. It's been a bit of a bonanza of a day in terms of signings, coach. So no, thanks for updating us on that. Stu, you've been sat in the background a little bit quiet for the last few minutes. I'm sorry there, buddy. Is there anything else you wanted to ask Stewie while we're here?
No, I'm really excited for the testimonial in the coming days, and it'll be great to see everyone back on the ice and have a real sort of fun night out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I'm so happy that so many people that work with the Blaze, for the Blaze, volunteers, staff, whatever, that everyone's pretty much here and involved, match night crew, volunteers, down to stewards, yourself and Ed. I'm so happy that everyone's involved and everyone's a part of it. So yeah, I couldn't be happier.
It's a pretty good place to end it, I think, guys. So thank you so much, as always, for tuning in to the Blaze TV podcast. We'll have plenty more of these coming as the summer progresses. So from me at Kimberley, from Stewie, from Stu Coles, we'll see you soon. Take care.